ridiculous turnaround that I've ever seen. I want you to explain to these recruits how the worst soldier in the unit has managed to put them all to shame.
I just stopped thinking.
This could not possibly be the solution, right?
I figured out that using my brain was the whole problem. Not just here, but my entire life. But if I just do exactly what I'm told and nothing else, then everything gets easy.
What I think this clip from Malcolm in the Middle is trying to get across is that most of us are not experts in the things we do on a daily basis. Which means that over the course of our lives, we're making a shit ton of suboptimal decisions. So, why make these decisions for yourself? Why think for yourself when you could refer to an expert that has already perfected what you're trying to do, and you can get a much better result by simply blindly following them? And the thing is, we low-key probably should, and that's generally what a lot of people already do. That's why we have coaches, that's why we have dietitians, that's why we have financial advisors, that's why we have advisors for anything. That's because you understand that someone who specializes in something and has dedicated their life to that thing probably has a slightly better insight at doing it than you do. But there's one little problem with that, right? Or else all of us would have coaches and advisors for everything. And the problem with that is that coaches are specialized. And by being specialized, that means there's fewer of them. By there being fewer of them, they're probably expensive to some extent. They generally just cost money. It's not a free service. And the second thing is, right, because they're specialized and there's less of them, that means that they're not readily accessible. Like, I don't know about you, but I've seen these like cool videos on Instagram about like fashion gurus in Korea, like a specialized service where they like figure out what like color outfit works best with your skin tone. That's not something that I know I can get in like my town. Matter of fact, I don't even know can I get it in like the capital city of Ireland. Fuck me, I guess. Okay, so then you'd consider doing research. Fundamental problem with that is that you can't become an expert in everything you do. It's simply unpractical, or otherwise, once again, everybody would already be experts. And that's perfectly acceptable, right? You don't have to be like the #1 expert in a certain field to be doing way better than everyone else in it. So we can completely grant that the marginal utility that you're going to gain is like not on the top of your priority lists, right? But that still doesn't mean that this research is going to be easy or time effective. And there's going to be really 3 things, in my opinion, that's going to be discouraging most people from doing their own research. Firstly, the information you're going to find online is going to be scattered, potentially inaccessible, and then potentially difficult to understand. What this looks like is looking for like one specific paper in some random corner of Google Scholar, then realizing that it's paywalled, so you have to pay to get it. And then lastly, it may be too difficult to read because reasonably, most people aren't educated in how to read scientific papers. So that essentially makes the cognitive load of understanding this information too high for most people to bother. But that's only the first issue. Second problem, the information is impersonal or too generic. So let's say you're not looking for scientific research papers for the reasons I already outlined. You can turn to like YouTube videos or like online articles. All of them are catering to an audience, which means they're probably not super specific because being too niche is harmful for them. So I'm going to appeal to fashion as my example again because it's just so easy for me to get it off the top of my head. But you're going to be appealing to so many things like how heavy are you, how tall are you, what's your body shape, what kind of styles do you like and you dislike, what skin color are you. There's just so many things that are going to play a part into this, so that finding generic advice on YouTube that's just going to tell you, okay, wear this shirt, wear this color combo, it's like it doesn't really work, right? It's not optimal. It's like so far from optimal that you don't really want it. And then the third issue you're going to run into with doing your own research is conflicting information, right? Not everyone on the internet is going to agree about a certain solution, so you're going to get a variety of different answers. On the one hand, that's good. If you have critical thinking skills, you can apply that and then create a better solution for yourself. Good. But that means looking into more resources. That means spending more time researching. That's just something that most people generally do not want to do because it takes time and energy, right? So it's a problem for us. So to recap, coaches, expensive, inaccessible, right? Most people aren't going to be using their services unless it's just like a marginal utility thing and they have enough money like invested elsewhere. And we're not going to do our own research for the most part because it takes time and energy. The information is potentially not applicable to you and the information could be conflicting, right? So what if there was something that we could use, right, that was relatively inaccessible, fast, authoritative, and generally like 90% right? Oh my god, we can. There's AI. Okay, so why doesn't AI just think for me? Why doesn't AI manage my entire life? And there's one big reason for that, and that's AI lobotomy, right? People, when being given the path of least resistance, especially when it comes to thinking, are just going to lobotomize themselves or make themselves fucking big problem with that, right? Essentially, how this is going to manifest is that when you give people the path of least resistance, they're going to take it, right? That's kind of innate to being a human being. You may not be completely stupid, but you're losing the ability to think critically and make your own decisions in an intelligent way, because you simply do not have to make those decisions. You do not have to contrast and compare information, and you do not have to think for yourself. But it is probably not the worst thing that could possibly happen when we consider the next option, and that's becoming completely reliant on AI. Okay, hi, cool. New angle, because I realized that my initial explanation of AI lobotomy was absolutely fucking ass. Okay, so basically the main issue with like AI lobotomy, and the best way to understand it, is that it starts off with the fact that you're going to be too lazy to do mentally challenging tasks, right? We all agree that doing something easy with AI is fine. If it's too easy for you, it becomes tedious, and there's no point of wasting your time on it because it's not going to grow you as a person, right? But when this escalates to doing something mentally difficult, that's when you start losing the ability to work through problems. My camera's about to die, I'm fucking shitting myself. So then eventually when you start relying on AI to do these difficult tasks, you stop building the skills to be able to do them yourselves, and you're losing the ability to do those tasks. That then leads itself into like a loop, right? You can't do a task because you've used AI, so now it's too much of a struggle to do it yourself, so you decide to use AI again for an increasingly difficult task while not building the skills to be able to do it yourself at all. The more this loop goes on, the more further out of the equation you are, and the more integrated the AI is in the problem solving, and then essentially you become dependent on the AI, because the second you have no access to your fucking ChatGPT coding or Claude Code or whatever task you're doing, you can't do it. You can't make up the difference from what's expected of you, from what people think you can do, what you expect yourself to be able to do and accomplish, and what the AI was actually doing and what it was in that part of the equation. And right, in terms of work, this becomes scary enough as it is, but when you apply it to like what it reflects on your identity, you just become a shell of yourself. With like, you become just a husk where your actual brain is rotted away, and what people consider to be your brain is literally like your phone. It's not you anymore, so you just become a shell of your former self, and that's really scary, and that's genuinely something we really have to focus on avoiding, and that's the real danger of AI lobotomy and just becoming mentally fucking stupid. Of course, if we're trying to live our optimal lives, being lobotomized is really bad, and we do not want that. So the real question starts becoming not do we use AI, but what is the maximum amount of AI we can use, and how can we use it so that we do not lobotomize ourselves? The problem with this is that I think this is like a very abstract way to start off. What does this even look like? What does it mean to like use AI effectively without lobotomizing yourself? So I think like a great way to anchor this question is to think of a character like Tony Stark.
Wake up, Daddy's home.
So when we look at Tony Stark, we never really consider him to be lobotomized by Jarvis, even though Tony Stark is low-key like the original vibe coder. And the reason for that is clear, right? We see Tony Stark in the very first movie be completely removed from all his fancy gadgets, from Jarvis, from AI, from his like lab, and he can still do things. He still has the critical thinking skills to get out. He still has the capability to engineer his own machines. See, like a truly capable individual who can do so much more by leveraging the technology around him. And I think that's kind of the core of what we're looking at. You still want to be very capable, but you want to be able to do more of it. You want to be more capable in many different things. So when we're asking the question of how do we maximize our AI use without lobotomizing myself, I'm going to be vaguely heading towards the direction of what Tony Stark is. This is a book by this guy called Ali Abdaal, right? And he's like a doctor and YouTuber who does a lot of productivity content on YouTube. So what this guy came up with is the concept of a second brain, right? And this is like way before AI could actually like think for you. So here the second brain refers to a Notion page. This is mostly used for like scheduling your day, creative projects, and compartmentalizing them. The basic premise of that is that your brain can then focus on like the tasks that are immediately relevant for you. Okay, so what I've tried and it didn't really work was this idea of having like multiple ChatGPT agents come together to decide my schedule, right? Essentially, I had one that had university and like computer science projects as like its main focus, prioritizing that. And I had one that focused on like secondary activities like debates, and like maybe like making content for this YouTube channel as a second one. And then I had like a dietitian gym coach one, right? And they were kind of like arguing it out to like through me, right? Obviously I've been prompting them individually and then like sharing their messages. It was like a really like caveman fucking way of doing it. But they're focusing on how to like optimize my schedule to like get the biggest ROI for my time. That's kind of what I want to get at. But here's the thing, it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is because I am like too fucking, maybe it's like I'm not stupid enough, or sorry, I'm not retard maxing enough to just report to my AI as a manager, but I'm just not going to do that the way it is, right? The problem with it is that it requires direct intervention and direct prompting from me first to get to the AI to then try and fix my issues. But if things are going well, I'm not reporting to the AI because I'm already doing good, right? There's no fucking point. If things are going bad and I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing, I'm also not reporting back to ChatGPT because I'm probably concerned with something else or just do not want to have that conversation at the moment because it is uncomfortable. Okay, so really the biggest problem here was that I just wouldn't use it because it was too inconvenient and there was simply too much friction for me to use it, which made it essentially useless. So here's what I'm going to try next. From my just general understanding of what I've tried so far and just this Tony Stark inspiration, I think there's like a few different avenues that AI could be most practical when it comes to solving the initial issue of thinking too hard. Okay, so the first thing is if a task is too easy and too tedious, it is simply not worth your time, right? That's something that should obviously be handed off to AI so you can better use that time to develop yourself as a person. The second main advantage, I think, is to quickly reduce overthinking, right? Some people consider this a con of AI. I honestly consider it a plus as like a major overthinker myself. But AI is just generally really decisive and really authoritative. And sometimes it'll state like wrong information confidently. But as I've outlined, that information usually isn't too wrong, right? So obviously we're still retaining our critical thinking skills. If it tells me that my optimal workout is to like fucking do handstands all day, I'm not going to listen to it. I can avoid the overthinking, I can avoid doing the research, I can avoid the conflicting information of like Athlete X and Jeff Nippard or whatever the fuck, and I can just do something that's more than likely really good. The second thing in regarding to this decisiveness is I think it's really optimal for time management. Something that I always have an issue with is like always having my priorities be really fluid. Like one day I really want to focus on debate, another day I really want to focus on YouTube, another day I want to focus on my CS projects, and it's all conflicting with each other, and like the momentum is rarely building because I have too much insecurity about thinking that I've made the right choice, so I always want to change it around. This is something that I think an authoritative stance would really help with, and this was kind of like a key point for why I tried this ChatGPT solution previously. And then the third thing I think AI could potentially do really well is adding friction, right? Is just taking a small pause. You just consider for like 30 seconds, wait a minute, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Is this really what I want to be doing, right? Like I go to the shop, I suddenly feel the urge to like eat something like sugary, like fucking slam down a bar of chocolate, right? And by the time I'm like at the cash register and buy it, it's like, well, fuck, like I already bought it. Well, harder, gotta eat it now and like eat fucking 400 calories. Bad. But hypothetically, right? Say I go into the shop and like I get a phone call, or like maybe a phone call is a bit extreme, but I get like a notification on my phone and it's like an AI prompting me, just like not me prompting it, but it prompting me really of, hey, you just entered the shop. What are you even here to buy? It's like, well, I was just gonna buy water, but like low-key now I have this chocolate bar in my hand. It's like, do I really want it? Like, do I need it? Like, why am I even getting it, right? That kind of thing is like more than enough to sometimes just get you out of this like fucking monkey brain hypnosis. And I think that's like the third very most useful thing that AI could do. So I'm gonna start small, right? One feature at a time. And I think the first one that I'm going to implement out of those three is I think A is by far like too difficult to implement first because it's going to have to cover a wide scale of things. I think reducing overthinking is more complex and getting it on time management, and it requires a lot of adherence. So I think the most logical thing for me to start working on is C, option 3, and that's adding friction. So with this in mind, see you next time. That's what I'm going to be working on. Hope you stick around. If you want to see the results and see what I come up with, subscribe. Cheers.